Okay, we'll get started. I'll call the special meeting of the School Board of Palm Beach County to order at 7:41 on September 30th. Ms. Bass, please take the roll.
District 1.
District 1, Barbara McQuinn here.
District 2, Chuck Shaw.
Here.
District 3, Karen Brill.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marcia Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Deborah Robinson.
All right, we said the pledge earlier today, so we'll skip that for now. We have 5 sets of minutes. The record should also reflect, of course, that our superintendent's here, our inspector general's here, our general counsel's here, and our board clerk is present. We have 5 sets of minutes that need to be approved. Motion by Vice Chairman Shaw, seconded by Mrs. McQuinn. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We have no items being added for good cause. Mr. Superintendent, you have any items to withdraw?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing to withdraw at this time.
Board members, you pulling anything? Ms. Brill?
Thank you. I didn't realize that this was under consent, but I guess I have to pull POL-A1, the policy regarding the student protocols.
All right, any others? We need a motion to approve the agenda as modified with that pull. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. McQuinn. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Before we go to disclosures and abstentions, we need to disclose that October 3rd is Dr. Robinson's 39th birthday again, and so happy birthday, Dr. Robinson. Hope you have a great weekend. You're welcome. Any other disclosures? Any abstentions? Mr. Superintendent, do you have comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. Well, good afternoon. Good evening. I'd like to begin by congratulating this board and every employee of the School District of Palm Beach County. Because of you and our passion and our commitment to excellent education, our district has once again achieved the distinction of an academically high-performing school district. Let's also congratulate Bach Middle School of the Arts and Murakami Park Elementary School. These extraordinary schools are 2 of only 11 in Florida that have been recognized by the U.S. Department of Education as 2020 exemplary high-performing national blue ribbon schools. The recognition is based on the school's overall academic performance or progress in closing achievement gaps among student subgroups. Special thanks to both of these achievements goes to our principals. Principals are the pillars of every good school district, and I'd like to invite you to join me in celebrating and thanking our school leaders. October is National Principals Month. It's time to honor our principals for their significant impact on the success and well-being of our students. In October, we also celebrate another important team in our district. October 2nd is National Custodial Workers Recognition Day. Thank you to these dedicated members of Team Palm Beach who keep our schools and workplaces clean and running smoothly. Let's give them a round of applause for the work that they're doing here today. I also need to pass around a lot of praise to our teachers. Campus is fully reopened on September the 21st. Since then, our educators have been simultaneously teaching students who remain in distance learning and students who are back in brick and mortar for in-person instruction. Our most recent numbers indicate that roughly 36% of students are on our campuses, while 64% remain in distance learning. I want our educators, our students, and our parents to know we hear you, we understand your concerns. Simultaneous instruction is not ideal, but is our best solution right now. Teachers are working harder than they ever have as they interact with and engage 2 groups of students at the same time. Teachers are also creating additional lesson plans to be as effective as possible. Amid all of this, students may feel slighted and the attention directed toward them is divided. I cannot thank our teachers and our students enough for making the best out of this situation as we offer parents a choice of instruction modality. That choice, however, has proven to be more fluid than intended. Currently, we're seeing numerous students bounce back and forth daily between in-person and distance learning. This fluidity is taxing our teachers and many of our departments throughout the district. It also makes contact tracing significantly more difficult in the case of an individual who tests positive for COVID-19 on one of our campuses. Over the next couple of weeks, the district will further stabilize our enrollment by requesting that parents lock in their instructional choice for the remainder of this semester, which ends on January the 29th, and then again for the second semester, which begins February the 2nd. Deputy Superintendent Keith Oswald joins us now with a brief presentation which further explains the need for the stabilization and the timeline for parents to make the decision. At this time, our Deputy Superintendent Keith Oswald.
Thank you, Dr. Fenoy. And again, good evening, everyone, and to our board members. As Dr. Fenoy stated, we are looking to try to stabilize our enrollment and asking and requesting parents to lock in their choice for in-person learning or distance learning for both the first semester and then again for the second semester. This will better prepare our schools to address safety concerns on our school campuses and improve the instructional models that are currently being implemented on our school campuses. Going a little bit deeper, the dates that we'll go through again that Dr. Fenoy outlined does create a good timeline for parents to finalize their decision. One of the things that we did here throughout the communities is we wanted to have some time to see what does it look like on our school campuses and to see what happens when we open brick and mortar, and families have been able to do that. Also, as Mr. Burke and as outlined by our legislative workshop, we want to work with our schools to finalize staffing allocations. Currently, we're down almost 7,500 students, which is a significant decrease in enrollment and close to, I don't want to say how many millions, but something that we do need to address. This will also allow for this opportunity. Also, we've heard a lot about simultaneous teaching as well as potential opportunity for additional remote work. This would allow for schools to establish and look to investigate potentially more opportunities for that to, one, less simultaneous teaching and potential more remote work. Also, as Dr. Fenoy mentioned again earlier, addressing the safety on our school campuses, the one-week turnaround to establish those issues on the school campuses is very challenging on a week-to-week basis when addressing all of the other nuances running a school campus. Then also looking at other potential instructional models that can better support our students as we go through this new normal. In particular, in the second semester, we were talking about assessments earlier. There's a lot of assessments that occur on our school campuses, and as we work with the state to see what kind of guidelines they provide us for students who have chosen distance learning, we know that in some situations students are going to have to come onto our campuses to take these, whether they're state tests or potential accelerated tests. So we do want to allow a good amount of time for schools to prepare for that testing season. So the timeline that we're looking for the rest of this first semester is that beginning Monday that the window would open back up for any parent who wishes to change their current choice. They would go back into the portal and make that change in the portal just as they established earlier. If they're not making a change, they do not need to do anything. We would close that window October 14th, allowing our schools approximately 2 weeks to make any changes potentially into the master board. These changes would then take effect on November 4th, which is the beginning of the second quarter for our secondary schools, and no other changes would occur until the end of that semester, which is January 29th. When we return back after winter break, we would open up the window on January 4th through January 11th for second semester changes. So again, the first semester changes would go through the 29th. Any parent wishing to change that choice would do it during that window. We would advertise that to the schools. That would finalize their choices throughout the entire rest of the school year. And that would begin on Tuesday, February 2nd, which is the beginning of the second semester. And again, run to the end of the year.
Mr. Oswald, hold a sec. Ms. McQuinn has a question.
Thank you. Of course, I anticipated this coming. I'm very excited about this. You know, I told Dr. Fenoy when we spoke earlier this week that, you know, that flywheel thing, we're getting there. I'm very excited about this. Anyway, I would like to just suggest that rather, if going back, I'll just give you the dates. You had a date of November 4th for, you can't change your mind. I would like for us to consider going back to October 27th, which it's just 1 week less, but when I looked at the calendar, we have, let me get this right, the end of the first 9 weeks, which is what we're talking about right now, is Monday, November 2nd. There's a professional development day or whatever's happened with all that on Tuesday, the 3rd. The second 9 weeks begins November the 4th. So I would love to see us back that up. It still gives parents until, I'm looking here at the 27th. So if that's a possibility, if we could back that just a little bit, a week, I think that it would make the planning much more smooth than, that's it.
For point of clarification, the 27th would be the date to close the window?
Yeah, to close the window.
Okay.
That's plenty of time. It's almost, what, like 4 weeks from now?
Well,
If I'm not mistaken, that would actually add more time.
it would add more time.
November 4th is when the implementation of the new schedules would start.
Correct.
So can we put that back up again?
It's up there. So we want to close the window on the 14th, Ms. McQuinn, so that schools would have 2 weeks to make any adjustments into their master board that may be necessary. That would take effect, to your point, November 4th.
If Dr. Fenoy could live with that.
What's on the screen? Because what you're really asking us is to give them an additional week to
I
make their
am.
choice.
I'm asking for just an additional week.
For parents to make a choice.
No, I'm asking for a week less for the parents to make a choice.
Right, so the date of the choice is October the 14th. And then that gives the schools 2 weeks to adjust all of their calendars, all of their master boards.
Okay, let me just read it again, because I thought I had it. The window closes October 14th. Okay, but Wednesday, November 4th, the platform is finalized and no further changes. I'm thinking November 4th is too late for that.
Well, maybe the terminology, November 4th, the changes are implemented, and so implementation begins of any changes the parents established by the 14th. So from the October 14th until November 3rd, principals are making those changes and potentially in the master board, so for smooth implementation on the 4th.
Yes, let's change the language to be that clear. November 4th is the implementation of all of the changes that were requested from parents for the 2 weeks prior. So we'll make that very clear.
I think we've got it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think we got it.
Any other comments before Mr. Oswald moves on? Go ahead, Mr. Oswald.
And no, you stopped me at the end, so
Oh.
that was good timing.
Good place to stop you, I guess. Any other comments from the board members? He's done. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I'm glad we're making this change. I just want to make sure that we get an affirmative response from the parent, whatever the answer is going to be. I don't like the concept when we have so many families that are in a state of flux and all. I don't like us assuming that they're going to lock in, if they don't respond by October 14th, that they're locking in to their current situation, whichever one it is. I don't like that. I think that we need to expect a response one way or the other from the families. Okay? Which means we're going to be hunting down some families. But we've got that down now. We've been hunting them down in the
Okay.
spring. We've been hunting them down to get it.
So what I'm actually hearing you say is, don't just rely on the families to do that on their own. Just make some efforts to go find them by the end date, is what I'm actually hearing you say.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They need to answer one way or the other, which means that for some families, we're going to have to reach out to them. Because how do we plan to notify families? Because I'm clear when, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, we're going to go a number of different avenues, one from a central office down to the school level, the regional level, and then also down to the classroom teachers who are having direct contact with students on a regular basis and families.
So that's fantastic. So I think that we should be able to get an answer. I just don't want to make assumptions, for example, that the child wants to remain in virtual because they've been in virtual, you know, I mean, we deal with this with the choice program, right? People missed the deadline. They weren't clear when the deadline was, right? And so this is, compared to the choice program, this is short notice, right? We have a 1 week window that's open, and we want them to answer within that week. And so I just want us to get the answer from them and not make an assumption, because I really don't want to have anybody locked in to one realm or the other when they didn't intend to be.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent,
I'm done with my comments, sir.
done with comments?
So can I follow up then? Because I have more on that.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but, okay. And so as a result of this, with the stabilization of the student population, oh, let me add this. I also want us to leave just some wiggle room in the back that we might decide that second semester won't be locked in for the whole semester, that it might be for the third marking period. I'm just saying, because these numbers are changing. I'm looking at the COVID numbers now. So parents might change their mind. So locking in for the rest of the semester, if everything is as I hope that it will be, it'll be just fine. Parents can lock in and be comfortable. But if we're not in a good place, I don't want to lock them in for the whole semester. So I don't need to argue about that now. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. if
I
we
think
could
I would
just-
like to just leave it as is, but I think just like everything else in our reality, if something changes, we will bring it back to the board and have that discussion so that the community will be aware. I think we've been very clear along, just even what we're doing today. You know, we had plans. We never got a chance to see them in person. We've now seen them in person for 2 weeks. We're making adjustments. So I agree with you. But I think for the purposes of right now, I think it'll help the principals stay. But if we have to make those changes, because as we all know, as we keep going through this, you know, the whole twin-demic, I think is the term I'm hearing, and
Right.
whatever happens after the holidays, we're gonna have to keep looking at our numbers and make the appropriate adjustments. So I agree with that.
Okay, and one more point.
Good.
So, and then as a result of this, then, it's my understanding that we will be working with principals to provide various instructional model options, so that if simultaneous is working for particular classes at the school, that the principals will work with their staff. If simultaneous is working for the teacher and students, fine. You know, they might decide that, you know, some classes might be remote, some might be just completely face-to-face. Some teachers might shift between face-to-face and simultaneous, or face-to-face and remote, but it's like what works for them. And so it's my understanding that what we are now doing is saying, we recognize that simultaneous is not working for everybody. If it's working for you, great, but now there's going to be additional options, like officially, for principals and teachers. And I got that straight? Because I just want to be clear. Okay. Okay, and then my final point would be, so I've heard, like, on my school board member life, how difficult master boards are. And so I'm going to specifically ask that whoever is the master of this, whoever is the person who can, like, lead the conversation at a school between principals and their staff to figure out what works for them, whether this class is simultaneous, this one is remote, and so forth, that we make sure that principals and schools have that expertise working with them, that we're not just saying you should figure that out. I mean, I know we're not going to say you should just figure it out, but I just need to put it out there, because I just keep hearing about all these years how complex creating a master board is, and especially some of our new principals. I think I can imagine this, and from talking to them, this might be quite overwhelming to figure out how to make this work. And so I don't want any school to get locked in to some particular method of delivery just because the principal doesn't have the years of experience to be as creative as that school might need to make it work for the students and the staff. So I'm seeing head nods. Okay. All right, I appreciate that. I think this is a humongous step forward, so thank you.
Mr. Oswald, how will you deal with students that are coming in from other school systems? They will have to make a choice when they enroll in the district, and they'll be stuck with that decision. Is that your intention for this?
Yes, correct.
All right. Mrs. McQuinn, you have comments?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Barbieri.
Okay. Ms. Brill, I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw, District 2.
Thank you. Mine is very quick. I want to take an opportunity to say congratulations to first school police, part of this issue, the staff at Discovery Key Elementary, our transportation department, and I believe maintenance. Last week when the gas explosion happened along the turnpike, Chief Kitsero shared with me in detail all of the things that happened, and I think that there were some really remarkable things that were done by the staff at that school. They were able to totally evacuate an entire school in 45 minutes, including having transportation provide buses to get the kids moved to Polo Park. They also had buses on standby that would have been able to deliver students to areas if parents couldn't pick them up. The teachers moved the kids to the west side of the campus to shelter them, but there were just some amazing things. So Mrs. Paul, all of the people in transportation that worked, you all deserve a tremendous amount of credit for it, a remarkable job in what could have been a very dangerous situation.
Ms. Brill?
So I wasn't going to make any comments, but I'll tag along with what Mr. Shaw said and let you know that I experienced my first code yellow because I was visiting Coral Reef Elementary School at the same time as that happened. And I know it affected several schools. It was very impressive to see how that was handled. And also, at the same time this was going on, we were getting the children out of Indian Pines Elementary School because they didn't have electricity. So, you know, I think I just saw how everything worked. It worked very well. No complaints from any of the families in any of those schools. And so congratulations to everyone because we really, Mrs. Paul and Chief Kitsero, great job, you know, in just with all those moving pieces.
Mrs. Whitfield? No comments? Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and I have a video I'd like to be played. Plus, I do ask for some special time to read something, especially to the teachers and some of the staff members who have been emailing me for the last couple of weeks.
You know, it's a great day. Obviously, a great day for the Aplucion family.
I have been knowing the Aluption family for about 15 years or so. First as students when I was the teacher and an administrator at Glade Central, and then when I became the principal of Belle Glade L, that's when I really got to know her mom and how supportive she was of her girls and how she just was such a pleasant person.
It's really a win-win. Actually, it's a win-win-win. A win for Habitat, a win for you as a family, and a win for the school district. 1, 2, 3. Hey!
I think this is the most all-encompassing educational experience our kids can get, not only because they learn the know-how of putting the house together, but they're also involved in meeting a family, knowing that they're helping a family benefit from things, and it gives them that sense of pride.
It takes everybody working together, doing it together for each other. And when the mayor said, yes, we can do it, we will do it, it's getting done.
We're proud to see that this family living the American dream, that is having home ownership. It's important to you, it's important to us that we get people to buy into this idea.
We all needed a little inspiration. We needed hope. And I needed this hope about how many people can come together to make this happen for a family. That how many people want to do good despite what is happening.
Moi, very excited. C'est une surprise que bon Dieu bon moi
m'pas penser avec ça que bon Dieu va bénir tout le monde qui est inclus dans le programme là.
And thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Seminole Ridge High School, Weiss Construction Academy, as well as Royal Palm Beach High School, HVAC Academy. They built the eighth house for Habitat for Humanity. It takes the village, and everybody works together. But the children of Palm Beach County are so outstanding. Their talents have made the difference and have made dreams come through for the Aloption family. And it was such a wonderful day on yesterday to see Mr. Oswald out there, along with Principal Campbell, as well as the community, the mayor of the city, and the city officials, but especially for the family who received the keys to their new home. So congratulations to Seminole Ridge and Royal Palm Beach High School on completing their eighth house. And thank you, Habitat for Humanity, for partnering with the School District of Palm Beach County, making life better for one family at a time. Now, I would like to say some things that I would like to have the time to say them, because I've received so many emails and so many calls over the last week, and I just could not let this moment go by without me saying how I truly felt as teachers poured their hearts out to me through emails, through phone calls, and not just teachers. It was like custodians, bus drivers, maintenance people telling me how they were so upset. So I've written some things down that I want to share with all of you of my thoughts. And tonight I'm hopeful. As I heard Mr. Oswald say, there's some hope here. In my talking to Dr. LaCava the other day, I felt some ray of hope. We are Palm Beach County. We can do better. But I was able to visit schools in the District 6 area on the first day of school. I think I attended 8 schools that opened with brick and mortar. And I did some schools this week. And I was happy that parents were able to get a choice for their children, and they were back in the building. And I saw the children adjusting well. Many of them were so happy to be back to school. As I visited classes, I saw teachers and staff doing their very best and saying to me, Ms. Andrews, we're so glad to be back in our school. I saw that with the principals. I saw that with the students. I saw that with the entire staff. I also saw students in the class as well as those that were on the computer. And we've talked about that a little bit tonight, the simultaneously teaching. It's not for everybody. It's truly not for every student. And as I'm moving around the district, I can see that. But I heard that in all those emails that I received, morning, noon, and night. My phone was beeping because people were hurting, and they were saying, help, help. And so it's been a difficult time for some of the teachers as well as some of the students. And yes, in all your emails over the past week, I hear you saying, help us, help us. We want to do our best to teach our students. Please help us do our best. Teachers are getting burned out. Students are falling behind. We must do our best to correct this teaching style. And it sounds like from Mr. Oswald's discussion tonight, we're going to make a difference with this. So it's helping me to feel better, having been in this district all these years as a teacher and a recruiter of teachers. And many of these teachers, I know them. Some of them were students when I was a principal, and many of them I've recruited here to Palm Beach County. And I felt so hopeless and helpless that I wasn't able to help them. But I see now we're coming together in a better way here in Palm Beach County to truly help everybody. We are an A-rated district because of our teachers and our students and staff. And many of our teachers were recruited from all across the country and across the world. As I look at how we've dealt with this situation with COVID and the remote teaching, it wasn't good. When I sat here and made recommendations, I thought people would get their choices. I have to commend Dr. LaCava. He did clear a lot of people. But when we said we were going to give it all to principals, a lot of people were left behind. Lots of teachers and a lot of employees. But it looks like now we're catching our breath and we're going to make a difference. And I'm truly happy for that because people are suffering and they want the help from Palm Beach County. And we are Palm Beach County and we can do better. Many of our teachers and employees are exhausting their sick leave. Many have resigned, retired, and taking unpaid leave. They're going through some mental breakdowns, folks. I picked up my phone and called quite a few of them back to tell them to hold on. I think help is on the way. And as I heard Dr. Robinson say just a few minutes ago, she's feeling better. Well, I'm feeling better when I hear Mr. Oswald and when I hear Dr. LaCava says that we're going to try to do better and save some of these teachers. Yes, our enrollment is down, but we're talking about many of our veteran teachers, many of them with health-related issues. This pandemic is not a good thing. It has not been good for anybody, but we've got to work through it, and we are Palm Beach County. We can make it happen during these difficult times to take care of the entire family. So I know that we can make it happen. Principals did it. They did it for some in their schools. I was happy to hear area region superintendent said, we took care of our region. Some principals, Dr. Robinson, may not have known how to do that master schedule as well as others. So some teachers and employees got taken care of. But now that we're looking at this process again, I'm hoping we can do better and save as many people as possible. They truly came committed to Palm Beach County to teach and work, and we have to value them every single day. This is why we are a rated school district, because of the people who work for us. They teach for us. They drive our buses. They take care of our children. So I'm feeling a little better tonight, but I hope this positive feeling continues as we try to do a better job with our employees, our teachers, and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Dr. Robinson? Yep, I'm sorry, Erica. Mrs. Whitfield?
I'm sorry, I know I said I was going to make any comments, but I wanted to just say one really quick thing about the proposal that came forward from staff about locking in the choices. One thing I think is really important for everyone to know, after the first day of school, I sent an email to each one of my principals, congratulating them on starting and asking if they had any concerns. And the only thing I heard back from any principal was this issue, was please give us this opportunity to do a better job of being able to work on our master schedule and make sure that that we can schedule appropriately. And I really want to thank staff so much for their quick response on this, because I do think we have to do what we can to make all of our staff's job a little easier. I think it's been very difficult for principals and for teachers, especially the simultaneous learning has been very tricky. So hopefully this will actually help going forward. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for their efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Whitfield. Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I don't have any prepared remarks. I just want to say thank you for the happy birthday, but I just need you to know I'm going to be 64. There are like rights and privileges that come with that and responsibilities. So I just don't give me that 39. I don't even want to be 39. I'm going to be 64. And I'm just saying, so just get ready, because I want you to know 1956 was a very good year. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. My only comments, I want to agree with Mrs. Andrews. It's heartbreaking to read all those emails from the teachers and really don't have any answers. It's been tough because you read them, and a lot of these teachers we all know because we've been here. A lot of us now been here a long time, and you just feel so helpless because you don't know what to say to them to help them. Especially the ones that are priority 2 and 3 teachers that are concerned about either their health or the health of somebody that's living with them. So I'm happy that we're finally at a place to, that we'll talk about tonight on this policy to help those teachers. And I'll save the other comments I have for the situation when we get to that policy. But I agree. I mean, it's been really tough, and it's, you know, and I visited all 21 of my schools in the first 2 weeks of school, and I heard the same thing from some of the teachers. Some of the synchronized teaching worked well for some of them, and other ones said it was, you know, they felt they were shortchanging their students, and so, you know, it's been tough for them, and I know it's been tough on the principals, you know, and trying to do what they can to because they share the same pain as all of us when they hear their teachers complaining. So hopefully we'll get that all resolved tonight and be able to get some answers out to them to make their lives easier so they can teach our kids with happy smiles on their face. That's the end of the board comments, and the next item on the agenda will be agenda item speakers, and we have 5 of them. 2 of them are here, and 3 of them are recorded. So I'll call the first 2 up to the podium. If you're on this side of the room, please go to the podium on my left, and if you're on that side of the room, go to the one on my right, and that's Elizabeth Murray and Donald Pearson. When you get to the podium, please state your name for the record, and you have 3 minutes, so please watch the clock.
Yes, is it on?
Go ahead, Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, Don Pearson. I'm 39-year teacher in the county, government relations chair for CTA, but tonight I'm speaking as an individual. This was really interesting. I was just going to say, I'm not here to defend anyone. I'm here to just speak truth to power. And there's some things that the community, the school board, and the superintendent need to know. So I was going to give you some of those things, like you need to know that teachers right now are afraid to be in the class with one student, with the door locked. That might be an issue. But what's really come up and what we talked about is I'm one of those teachers. I had, not with the one student, I had a class, I had 5 students in it, and the assistant principal came in and removed one of the students. Told me later he was removed because his brother was positive for COVID. And I did everything, I wear the mask and everything, and I'm waiting to see what happens, and nothing happened. But the brother was also at our school, and there were some teachers there that had that student. And one of the teachers was denied, number 2 medical, and nothing happened with her. She was 7 feet away. So she decided she would just get tested anyway. So she asked if she could teach from home from one day, and she was told, no, what you need to do is take a day and use your sick day to get tested. And I just, from what we talked about, that, Miss Whitfield, I mean, she thanked you for letting her, be at home doing this. I think that should be afforded to some of our teachers. But that stuff's real. And listening to this, I know it's real because, if I may, my daughter just graduated from college, and she's in Prague. And just the other day, it happened to be on her birthday, she called and said she tested positive for COVID. So I'm dealing with that long distance, and it's real. So I like what you're doing. I've said that, but like I've always said, we need to do the right thing. And if we do that and everybody works together, then it works. I wouldn't stay in a county this long if I didn't love it. And I think when I talk to you, I think you listen. I hope you do. But this was very interesting tonight. And just one more thing, Dr. Robinson, happy birthday. I think you are 39, but with 25 years experience. Thank you.
I guess the IT department, I don't know if it's Vaughn tonight, but we have 3 recorded speakers, Robert Weiner, Brooke Friedman, and Colleen Wallace. Whoever's playing those, would you start that?
This is Robert Weiner. I am speaking to the agenda item relating to policy 3.82. I'm going to go very quickly here because there's a lot to say. First, I want to start off with policy portion 1, which speaks to using the CDC or state guidelines. I think that is a mistake. We have seen multiple pieces of evidence showing that both of those numbers are unreliable as a whole. We should be looking and asking only locally sourced information and using only that to make our determination. 2B, does nothing relate to burden from the principals. If anything, all it does is codify Dr. Fenoy's very out of touch and tone deaf statement about not changing master boards or schedules. That is something that we do all of the time on campus anyway. And the idea that it would be an undue burden is ridiculous. 3A2, people taking fever-reducing medicines, people take a Tylenol for a myriad of reasons, not just for reducing fevers. It needs to be much more specific in its language. It is far too broad. 3A5, the staggered start, staggered leaving is an undue burden both on administration, staff, and students. And it does nothing to actually alleviate any of these problems that we are having, plus it would push teachers outside of contract hours. A6 basically says there are no class size limits. You've taken away 10 and turned it into nothing, which means that we can stick as many kids in a room as we would like. That is definitely outside of CDC protocols. Part D speaks to the teacher being available for remote assignment. Who makes that determination? Is it solely the discretion of the administration, or does the teacher have input? And if the teacher does not have input, why not? Why would you not ask the person teaching the class how they could with efficacy teach that program from a distance if they believe they can? If you cannot ask the teacher that question, then you cannot make a true determination. When does that 5-day period start for an appeal? There are many people who have already been refused a remote work assignment. If you put this policy in force without putting language in there that states the date that period starts, that means all of those people who haven't appealed yet have now lost their opportunity to appeal. That is totally outside of the realm of responsibility. And finally, the return to work when exposed to COVID, it says that it is possible for distance learning to be done if COVID is contracted on campus. That should be a non-negotiable. Any teacher who contracts COVID on campus should be able to teach, if they are capable and well enough, from home at distance at full pay without having to take a single day off. That should be a non-negotiable piece. That should be fixed right away. It should be probably the top of your list. That is an absolutely absurd. Thank you very much for your time. I hope everybody has a good night, and I will speak to you at the next meeting.
Hello, I am calling in regards to policy 3.82. My name is Brooke Friedman. I am a teacher for the district as well as a parent. I am calling in regards to 3.82 as far as remote teaching and being granted. I applied through the district. I was approved for remote teaching based on my priority and teaching special needs. I was told by my principal that there are no remote positions at my school. However, all of my students are virtual right now. They have not come on campus. I don't foresee them coming on campus in the near future. My question would be, if my students are staying virtual, why am I not being approved to get a remote position while they're virtual? Because I personally don't want my own children in school right now during the pandemic. But as of right now, I have no choice because I have to be at school. So I would like some clarification as to that. Also, even if I, let's say, have 1 or 2 students come back, I have made suggestions to the board through email about possibly pairing up teachers and students who want to go brick and mortar and those who want to stay remote to feeder schools in the area that would be able to, let's say, I take all of those virtual students at that said school, and my 2 brick and mortar, if they come back, would go there. Those were some solutions to the issues at hand. And lastly, I just want to also talk about, I believe it would be the mask policy. I understand that ESE has different needs, but I still feel that if a child does not understand how to keep a mask on, they are now exposing potentially everybody in that classroom. As my school nurse from the health department has stated, if they have COVID possibly and they are not wearing a mask, and I am, my chances of contracting it are 70%. That's a huge issue to me, especially with a husband with a major heart condition at home. I feel that if everybody needs to wear the mask, then all students need to wear the mask to keep everybody safe. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you take all of what we have to say into consideration. Have a good day.
This is Colleen Wallace from Palm Beach Schools, and I just have an issue with 3.82 regarding the teachers. They're not getting remote assignments. I only have 4 students out of 126 that are going to school. However, there's no remote assignment for me, although I have the ADA and the priority 2. My concern is for these students because now they are not getting a sub or a teacher or a class. I was told by administration that there are plenty of subs. However, they did not bother to get one. Subs are not allowed to do live meets. So I offered to do live meets with them, even though I'm out on unpaid sick leave, and I was rejected for that also. So I'm wondering why I'm being told this is in the best interest of the students to have no sub, no teacher, and no class. Furthermore, I resent the 3.82 directive for teachers to eat lunch in their cars. That is insulting and disrespectful. Furthermore, it proves that the campus is not a safe place for teachers and students. Please stop having the teachers do simultaneous teaching of remote and virtual when there are so few students that are doing virtual that it would be a no-brainer to pair up students and teachers appropriately. Thank you so much for your time. Please do the right thing and stay safe.
That's the end of our speakers. Board members, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda. The only thing that's been pulled is policy A1, or POL A1 by Ms. Brill. Does anybody else want to pull anything? Mr. Shaw? Make a motion to approve the consent agenda by Mr. Shaw, second by Dr. Robinson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Take us to new business, Mr. Superintendent. It would be POL A1.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. POL A1, policy 5.326, student protocols due to COVID-19 development. I recommend the board approve the development of proposed revised policy 5.326, student protocols due to COVID-19.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Vice Chairman Shaw. Ms. Brill, you pulled it?
Thank you. So I pulled this. This is in development, and you may not have realized that the verbiage at line 51 was proposed, changed already to the 2 layers. So for consistency's sake, and my brain is not up to giving the exact wording, so I would ask legal to wordsmith it, but I'd like to make a motion that we change any reference to the masks to be preferably of 3 layers, but no less than 2 layers.
That was seconded by Mrs. Andrews.
If I may, I just think that by doing this, we're setting our expectation in our policies, but we're also ensuring that, everybody's going to be in compliance with them. So by saying that it's preferably, I think that we're sending the message that that's what we want, but it's got to be no less than what the guidelines are.
Mr. Superintendent, can you live with that change?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Any other board discussion? Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I just want to bring to your attention that during our little break, I found a study from MIT on masks, and in that it says that there's actually increased effectiveness for masks when they are made of different materials, like a cotton as well as a different material, and actually suggest that these hybrid masks may actually be better, what says it actually better than other 2 or 3 layer masks made out of a single material, and actually superior to N95s, right? Which is like the gold standard. So, so Haynes might have done a good thing for us. It's one study. I don't know all the materials there, but I just want to say that has given me a little level of comfort in terms of these masks that Haynes sent us. And you know, I really hate the concept of 2-layer cotton mask, but for the student policy, I think I will appreciate the offer of compromise, so to speak.
Any other discussion? All in favor of that amendment? Opposed? Motion. Were you opposed, Mrs. Whitfield? I saw a hand at the last minute. Yes? Okay. That passes 7-0. Takes us back to the main recommendation by the superintendent. Any discussion? All in favor?
Mr. Oswald wants to say something.
So during the workshop, we read in some language that we'd like added, and if the board supports it, we'd like to read that in so that before you vote, so that could be in. So that under paragraph 4E, line 109, any other students attending face-to-face instruction in any district-operated school that reside in the same home as a student exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms will be sent home with the parent/guardian assigned to distance learning.
Barbieri.
Dr. Robinson?
I'd offer that as an amendment.
Okay. That was amendment made by Dr. Robinson for Mr. Oswald's recommendation, seconded by Ms. Brill. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any other changes, Mr. Oswald?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. That'll take us back to the main recommendation. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent, POLGC1.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I recommend the board approve adoption of proposed revised policy 1.03, school board meetings.
Motion by Ms. Brill, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? Mr. Shaw.
In this policy under speakers is a provision for voice recorded messages. And it was my understanding that that was something that was an emergency issue, but now it appears to me that this is being put in the policy as a permanent thing. And I just wanted clarification. Is that what the board expected out of that?
Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. At some point in the past, in one of our meetings, I asked that we keep that in. I found it to be a way that working parents can contact us. And you know, I've gotten so much criticism over the years about inability to make it here on time or whatever. And so it's really an attempt to make sure that we provide every measure possible to hear from those of us who have, especially the fewest blessings.
Ms. Brill, then Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you, and I completely agree. I think that we need to make our meetings as accessible to the public, and which is why we also had opened up for comments at our workshops. And I think that especially also for the people out in the Glades or a distance from here, it just gives them another way to communicate with us. So I completely support Dr. Robinson's recommendation.
And ditto.
So does Mrs. Andrews. And I see Mr. Harris on the screen. Did you want to give us some words of wisdom, Mr. Harris?
On a different issue, but I'll wait till you, unless you've finished your discussion on this one.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Well, I do have an addition and change that we do want to be consistent with what Mrs. Brill suggested. So we're talking about lines 3, 76 to 377 currently state all face covering, whether disposable or reusable, must be made with at least 3 layers of breathable material. And for consistency purposes, we'd be fine with all face coverings and then continue on with the language that Mrs. Brill suggested. If someone wants to make that motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second on that? Mrs. Andrews seconded that. Any discussion? Superintendent, I assume you have no issue with that?
No, sir, I don't have any issue with that.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Any further discussion on the main policy motion?
Yes, I have one other change I'd recommend. Line, it also states about face shields, lines 384 to 385. And there's a sentence in there, which is not in several of the other protocol policies, about clear plastic face shields attached to a headboard that extend to the ears and below the chin are also suitable facial coverings, and we would recommend that be deleted.
Do we have a motion? Any board member wants to make a motion on that? Dr. Robinson? Yeah, I'll make that motion. Okay, and it was seconded by Ms. Brill. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Harris, are you finished?
Yes, thank you.
All in favor of the main motion? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. PLHR1, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, sir. POHL1, I recommend the board approve adoption of proposed revised policy 3.82, employee protocols due to COVID-19.
Motion by Dr. Robinson, second by Ms. McQuinn. Discussion? Ms. Brill.
Before I make my other comment, the other change, I did want to suggest, and I did mention this to Dr. LaCava, on line 75, I think it is, where it says employees are encouraged to utilize outdoor spaces. This was just wordsmithing, Dr. LaCava said. Rather than saying employees are encouraged to utilize outdoor spaces and their personal vehicles, I would rather say employees are able, because I don't want to encourage them to go eat in their cars, but if they feel they want to, I want them to know that they can, but I just don't like that word that we're encouraging them to do that. So I don't think that needs a motion, right?
No, we just,
All right, I'm making the motion that we change that line to line 75 to read, employees are able to utilize outdoor spaces, their personal vehicles, etc.
It was seconded by Ms. McQuinn? No, who seconded that? Dr. Robinson? Ms. McQuinn, do you have a comment or
Yeah,
discussion?
thank you. Well, I was just going to wordsmith. Mrs. Brill. Instead of are able to, may. They may.
That's fine.
She loves it.
I like May. So do you want me to?
Under discussion,
Do we have to make a substitute motion for that?
you agree to the may instead of?
No, it's fine.
Fine. So let me, under discussion, I'm just concerned about may because there may be some supervisors in some locations where employees are not allowed to leave school district property. So when you're saying may, now we're overriding a supervisor's, I think we'd be overriding a supervisor's authority if people are restricted not to leave the property during lunch. So, I mean, I don't know if that occurs anywhere in the district. Where people are not allowed to leave. I know that students aren't, but are there situations in the district where employees are not allowed to leave school board property while they're at lunch? And when we put may in there, we're basically saying they may, forget about what the supervisor says, they may do it anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware of that, but I think before, it sounds like we may want to investigate, but I don't know of any protocol that doesn't allow.
well, at a school level, they would just have to get permission to sign in and sign out, if they had enough time. So there's a process in place in schools.
Dr. LaCava?
You know, the intent of that was just to give flexibility to the teacher wherever they wanted to eat. So maybe I wonder if employees are able to utilize outdoor spaces. I mean, that's what you said. I'm going back to the original language.
Okay, I mean, I have no problem with the may, as long as we're not overriding a supervisor's authority somewhere in the district, because I just wasn't.
If I may, the reason why we vision in here was this policy is for all district employees, not just teachers. So there are school sites where a custodian maybe, doesn't have that ability because the lunch is only 30 minutes, they can't leave. We wanted them to know that they could go outside the break room to eat. We found this was a problem over the summer where we had some outbreaks of COVID, that the custodians were all eating together in a small break room. And that's what this language was about. It was never about forcing people to eat in their cars. We just wanted them to have that option. So I think, if you may, we could just say that employees are able to utilize outdoor spaces, take the other language out about vehicles and off-district properties for meals, and just have them that they're able to eat outside.
Ms. Breaux?
So I will now put a substitute motion with that language.
Okay, and who seconded Ms. Breaux the first time? Dr. Robinson, you okay with that? Any further discussion? Ms. Breaux, thumbs up. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Breaux?
Okay, and again, for consistency's sake, I'll make a motion that we change the language wherever it is regarding the facial masks to be preferably of 3 layers, but no less than 2 layers of breathable material.
That's line 56. I have that.
Is that
changed.
the only place?
That's the only place. I have
Okay.
it marked already, ma'am.
Okay.
We have a second on that. Dr. Robinson? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Back to the main motion to approve the policy. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
If I may, Mr. Barbieri, before you take a vote, we had one other language to comply with what Mr. Harris has asked for in lines 64 and 65. We have in the policy currently that clear plastic face shields are a suitable facial covering. The recommendation from legal was that that be removed.
Dr. Robinson made that motion. Seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Does anybody else in the room want to make a change to this policy before we vote on it? Dr. Robinson?
I just want to clarify, with the change that was made, teachers or others could still wear a face shield, but with the mask.
Correct, or if it was made as an accommodation, or if we have teachers who are teaching children who are deaf and hard of hearing, they may need to have a clear face shield.
Okay, I just want to double check. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. POL01, Mr. Superintendent.
POL01, I recommend the board approve development of proposed policy 2.065, visitation protocols on district property due to COVID-19.
Motion made by Vice Chairman Shaw, seconded by Ms. Breaux. Discussion? Ms. Breaux?
Thank you. So again, for consistency's sake, at line number, beginning at line 69, it's actually line 70, the reference to the facial masks. I make the motion that we change the language consistent with the other policies to be preferably of 3 layers, but no less than 2 layers of breathable material.
Second? Ms. McQuinn, any discussion? All in favor? Dr. Robinson?
Thank you. So I'm uncomfortable with this one just because, like, visitors we have less knowledge and control over visitors. And I don't want to put all kind of language in here about 2 layers made out of different materials and all that kind of stuff. I think that gets to be a bit much. So I'm going to operate in my abundance of caution language. I'm not going to support this because, again, these cloth masks, which are commonly what people are using, and the surgical masks are designed to protect the observer more. And so with like unknown visitors coming in, I would really want them to have more protection for others than just a 2-layer mask. So it might be a distinction without a difference, but it still bugs me. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 6-1 with Dr. Robinson opposing. Make it back. That's the end of our agenda items. We have 3 board discussion items.